Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started now. Now that you guys know how to use the Q&A feature, that's awesome. So if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to type them in there. I can see them this time, so I'm excited about that. So I just want to welcome everybody. I'm glad we have you joining here. This will also be recorded and be shared later, so anybody who's missing it now will be able to join later and hear it as a recording. So that will be awesome. So I am Heidi and I am the webinar moderator and I'm happy to be here. I'm also a presenter and a podcaster, but most important, I'm just happy to be here with you guys today. So are you ready? Are you ready to get started? You ready to learn? Are you ready to succeed? You ready to grow? I'm ready too. So you've come to the right place. So let me introduce David. Hi, David. Tell us about
Hello.
yourself. And I'm going to
Yeah, my name is David Gonzalez. In kind of a professional setting, I actually go by my kindergarten nickname of Gonzo, because as this slide proves, there's too many ways to properly spell my name, and it often gets misspelled. And
Oh
so,
no, we spelled your name
no,
wrong. Oh,
no,
okay.
it's just what it happens. And that's why. And so, emailing me and searching for me turns out to be very difficult. Gonzo is very easy to find.
Gonzo
Um,
sounds good.
yeah, and I've spent the last 11 years in applied AI, working on software systems around using AI in a variety of different settings, including looking at classroom analytics for about a year and a half in a startup that I did that didn't work. And then most recently in a startup that I built around deep learning as a service. So trying to comprehend image, audio, and video data in like a business context. And that company was acquired by my current employer. So,
Hey, so you're keeping busy, but you're in the education field too. So it's good.
yeah, well, in the education field, it's more a passion. And so I have done 7 years as a first Lego League coach at my local rec center in Provo, Utah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I got to hear about. What is this about?
So, First Lego League was brought to my attention about 8 years ago by my wife, who schools our kids at home for the most part. And they do, when I was a kid, which was a long time ago, homeschooling was kind of an esoteric practice that people did with mostly passion and very little resources and intelligence. And I'm sure people get mad at that. In you know, in the modern post-internet area, homeschooling is like coordinating resources, and it's a pretty powerful motif for working with children. I've been delighted and amazed at what my kids have been able to accomplish, under the guidance and tutelage of my wife, along with a cadre of tutors and special interest forays into art and science and crafts and making and tech type stuff. And like their life is so rich. My two high schoolers have spent part-time in high school, and our oldest graduated at 16, and she's out doing stuff. She's currently gearing up for a large scale art project and is going to be touring all 50 United States this summer as an 18-year-old. Yeah, and then we have a basketball and football athlete who enjoys Provo High for that and does welding, and then does math and science and reading and letters and stuff at home. But First Lego League was brought to my attention because my then 9-year-old boy was like, he saw it at I think it was a U of U, University of Utah kind of thing. I don't know. They went to something and there were a bunch of engineering students and they were talking about how you could learn engineering through Legos. And of course that, struck his fancy, and he's like, Dad, I want to do that, when he came home. And I said, well, let's find out. And at the point, he wasn't quite old enough. It's a 9 to 14-year-old thing. And we went and looked for a team. And at the time, there weren't any local. And so I said, well, let's try it. So several $1,000s later, and a lot of mistakes.
A lot of time.
And an inordinate amount of time.
Yeah.
We kind of fell into First Lego League. Provo Rec, the coordinators there, took pity on me. And the second year said, well, let's support you in this. This is exactly the kind of thing we would like to support. So they provided rooms, they coordinated all the logistics. Just 2 years ago, they hosted a qualifying event. The theme every year in First Lego League is, something to do with engineering vis-a-vis something. And in that case, it was space, outer space. And so they decorated the entirety of a hall in space themes, and it was magical. It was amazing. Yeah. And the kids had a riot. And and we went we won that qualifying event and went to state and placed, and have been doing pretty well. But I find the First Lego League program deeply, deeply compelling. As an employer, as an adult in tech, I think it might be the closest thing to reality that I've ever seen kids do.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So it's a 3-dimensional project over the course of several months. Okay. It usually starts around August, September, at the beginning of the school year, and it goes through the first part of winter. So usually it ends right around, end of January. There are follow-up opportunities. If you place in your state, you might be invited to World, and that kind of goes through early spring. The 3 dimensions are, one, what most everybody thinks about is you're building robots with Legos. Okay. So these are not your standard little bricks, the standard Legos that we've all thought of. These are very kind of complicated Legos. They're pins and bars, and you think kind of a Rector set style configuration. And then there is a smart brick with an LCD screen that you program. And you can program either, for the longest time, you could program in a visual language that's akin to MIT Scratch's visual interface. And then last year or the year before, Python, the programming language, was incorporated as a first-class citizen in the ecosystem. And my dear kids, bless their hearts, wanted to learn Python. And that has been an enormous challenge for them. But bless them, they've done phenomenally well. Mm-hmm. Sticking to it. It's very frustrating. Working for them, they have no familiarity with like a plain text syntactically driven programming language. Most of them have done some visual programming, but this is definitely stretching their abilities. You program the robots to do a common set of missions on a board that it's like a piece of plywood, right? It's 4x8. It'll have anywhere in the neighborhood of a dozen to 20 different individual missions that the robot needs to accomplish autonomously without human intervention. And you have 2.5 minutes to do that. And every year, a team wows everybody and manages to accomplish all the missions in 2.5 minutes. And it is a feat of brilliance. But to watch the kids struggle to both design the engineered mission pieces, so design a robot and the things that go on the robot, and then to program the robot to do it without their control it's just phenomenally exciting, Heidi.
That's crazy.
I find that level of struggle is incredibly similar to what I see my employees do, what I've done over my own career. There's no instruction manual. You have a bunch of eager people who at the front end of the project are convinced that they're going to conquer the universe. And by the end, they're happy to have done one thing well.
That really does sound like life.
That really is like life, right? Bless these kids. So many of them come to me having done quite well in school, in kind of a standard school setting, and they're not used to unstructured problems. Oh, yeah. That are just a pure objective. Like, here's the objective. There is no path. Like, the path is more resources than you know what to do with, and more time than you've ever had unstructured. Good luck. And we do our best to teach them fundamentals and rudiments of like simple machines and programming, but it's a non-trivial exercise. And frankly, I don't think very many adults could do this. And so that part is incredibly wonderful because for the first time in their life, they're happy to fail. Mm. For the first time in their little, 9 to 14-year-old lives, they're proud of the fact that they tried something that didn't work. And for the first time in their lives, they walk out beaming, getting what is effectively a D grade. Because it turns out everybody's getting Ds. And getting a D means that you worked really, really hard, and it didn't all work. And you're proud of yourself for sticking to it with that much determination. There's another aspect of it, which is a project. And so, again, every year has a theme. It'll be space. It'll be hydrodynamics. Think city water systems. This year it's replay, so it's a lot of exercise and fitness, things, and kinesiology. Like there's even elements of like understanding how the human body works. And so for that same time period, they have to come up with a brand new novel invention from scratch. They have to test it. They have to talk to adult experts and get brutal, candid feedback on the inadequacy of their thoughts and ideas. And then, try and address all of the holes in their thinking and their logic and their processes, and then go get the blessing or further critique from these adult experts, and then compose a 5-minute, essentially pitch about their idea to a panel of judges who are supportive and kind and brutal. And once again, these children for the first, and the thing that was so, I don't know, it was so different than anything I've done is when we go to these competitions, the state competition or the local competitions, the children are on their own. Like we're not in the room with them. Now they're in a room with, very kind and supportive adults, but these adults are not trying to give a pass, and they're not trying to, they're not trying to destroy, obviously their confidence, but they are giving extremely candid feedback. And to watch these kids come out of the room, like, because they're sweating bullets, they're so concerned that they're going to mess up, and they come out of there beaming, and they're like, "We did a decent job," like, mm-hmm. And I'm so proud of them, and they do that by themselves, and they're supportive with one another. Over the years, my little team has learned to go from, bickering and fighting in front of the judges to being exceedingly patient and kind and generous with one another and supportive, and learning that like everybody makes mistakes, and it's really, really hard and scary to be, the person talking, and they'll help each other and support each other. And again, like that is like, the kind of stand and deliver romanticization of education that I think those of us who are at least tantalized by education think of, is so rarely life. Like it really isn't that often that you're just on your own without support. It turns out the harder prospect is actually working on a team with people of different skills and capacities and abilities and interests, and trying to coordinate all of that energy into one direction is the challenge of existence. And these little kids are learning it, by the age of 14. Mm-hmm. And then the last dimension is just we have some core values around, professionalism, around cooperation, around co-opetition, around, being excited at other people's abilities, and it's okay to be disappointed and discouraged. So yeah, it is a phenomenal program that I think more schools should adopt.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, what, we have administrators and teachers that are listening to this webinar. Is there any little thing maybe that they could do, or what would you suggest? Because it's too bad they're only getting that training in the Lego League. Like, is there something we can do before that?
I don't know if before that. I mean, 9 to 14 is a pretty large swath of ages.
It's a good age group, yeah.
And
but is there something like in school that, or at home, that we could do that would be
there are several school districts that take, here in Utah where I'm at, I know that Granite School District regularly has I want to say 25, 30 teams in their school district.
Wow.
So they have leveraged a relationship through the Utah First Lego League as a core part of their STEM and Learn to Code and kind of science curriculum, or at least computer science curriculums for those age groups. I think spanning most of that swath of ages.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that so First Lego League is a nonprofit organization. It's a global effort. Every year, everybody's working on the same stuff. Every year, you can get the resources, the curriculum. There's a lot of resources for educators to leverage.
Okay.
Even if you're not terribly technical, even if you don't know how to code, there's a lot of material for helping individuals get started with this.
Okay.
And it's a great way to get parents involved.
That's what I was going to say. Would it be like a club or like a PTA side thing, a parent thing? Probably not more.
I've seen every version of it.
Okay.
So Granite has, I think they have STEM certified instructors who are adopting First Lego League as part of their course material.
Right.
I've seen some of the charter and private schools use this as a club, like the Challenger schools, and I think there's one up in Wasatch. This is something that is led almost as a club sport kind of thing with teachers and parents. And then, the way, and also you have stuff like what I do, which is through our city recreation center.
Okay.
And I've seen all of it. Yeah.
We had a question here. First of all, this is really awesome. And then is the aim for the Lego Leagues primarily to promote creativity? And so which kids tend to be the most successful in the Lego League?
I honestly think that First Lego League has a pretty ambitious goal, which is that STEM education can be a seed for creativity. Often we think of creativity as expressing itself through, through arts and letters.
Right.
Less so, honestly, through STEM. STEM feels more like, hey, you're going to be an engineer, so
like
go learn. Go learn the technical rudiments, and eventually maybe you'll create something. But most likely you'll just have a good job doing stuff. And First Lego League, especially with the invention and the problem solving, fosters deep creativity. And then I think what makes a team and the children the most successful, are a couple things. One, children who have parents who are excited watching their kids struggle. It does not. I've now done this for 7 years, and I can say with certainty that parents who are concerned about their kids, I don't know what
comfortable.
Yes, yeah. I'm searching for the diplomatic.
Protective.
Yeah. Whatever that. Yeah. So whatever the most diplomatic version of helicopter parent is.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to describe it that way as well.
Yeah. So those folks they wash out every year.
Yeah.
And they don't even just wash out of my program. I've watched parents of that mindset who get frustrated with their own school or with their own club, and they try and start one, and they never go very far because again, the kids are in the room by themselves. Like you can try and buoy them up and foster, or hold them up as much as you can, but eventually they're in there alone. And then it all falls apart because, they're not being coached and they're not being fed lines and they're not being, protected by those adults. They just have to kind of, stand on their own 2 feet. So that doesn't work very well. So kids who are accustomed to struggling or who can be encouraged and enticed to struggle do really, really well. And I haven't had, I've had kids of every kind of, neurospectrum kind of situation in my room, and I have examples of every kind of child doing really, really well.
Oh, that's super great. That's a really great opportunity for them. It's awesome. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A or talk in with David or Gonzo.
Both good. Yeah.
Either way. About a little bit about STEM too. You mentioned that. Was there anything else you wanted to share about that too?
So my belief is that STEM at the early ages, it needs to be much more around this kind of work that is
Yeah.
it's collaborative, it's inviting, um, it has a strong notion of like teamwork element, and probably a little, honestly, a little lighter on the tech. Learning to code is not that important, um, but learning to communicate technical problems and technical ideas, and to conceive of technical solutions as a group, learning to brainstorm and then winnow down, from a kind of boil the ocean solution down to something that actually could be done in a reasonable period of time. Um, I think the analogy that I like to bring is, when we talk about like K-12 education writing, we're talking about the ability to compose sentences, the ability to compose paragraphs, eventually getting to the point where you can compose an essay and maybe do a research paper. So essay and research paper is kind of where you max out, by the time you're ready to go to college. And I think STEM would do well to think of themselves as doing similarly. Like, what is the essay and research paper equivalent in, computer science, in engineering, in math, that is not quite, lofty and I'm going to build an app and, be an 18-year-old millionaire. And it's also not like, learning to simply do a very, very, like, essentially the sentence version of code. Like, it's somewhere in the middle. And I think that requires a carefuler approach than I often see. Yeah.
Okay. So is that where the Lego League would really come in, or is there other things you've seen that are helpful?
I've I've seen people have tremendous success with like Minecraft mods. People do that. Kind of these maker spaces where they're very project oriented, I think are tremendous. Again, because when you're done, it feels like you've done something. If you're just doing like 100 days of code and you're solving puzzles, it doesn't, honestly, most of the kids that I work with don't feel like they've done anything. And it takes a fairly, again, I'm struggling for a diplomatic term, but it takes a fairly submissive type of personality to submit themselves to doing things that have no demonstrable win attached to it. And I was not that kid in school. I had to appeal to graduate. I did rank in the top 5 of my class, but I think my senior year I had missed 49 days of school. I was infinitely bored and didn't buy into most of it. And and I'm not saying that the teacher's job is to entertain, but it is to engage. And giving me worksheets, giving me things with no clear like personal win is just not motivating for a huge swath of children.
Well, it goes back to like, why do we need to know this? What is this going to serve us in the future? Like, I remember we would say that all the time at school. Like, do we really need to learn this, or what? What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got to have, when you feel like you have skin in the game, children will do. I've watched kids, like I had this young lady, Isri, who struggled for 5 months to accomplish a mission. 5 months. I counted that she put in about 140 hours, and like she was so determined. And I tried to actually dissuade her several times. I'm like, look, this is obviously like going nowhere.
Yeah.
Let's try something easier. And she's like, I'm going to do this. And and the day before the competition, it still wasn't working very reliably. And then in the competition, it worked. And she was beaming, beaming. And that's transformative for a child.
Right.
Like to have that much investment and to actually see the fruits of their labors like turn into something material and concrete. And I asked her, I was like, well, how do you feel? She's like, I've never felt this good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the questions here is like, what if our school doesn't have a Lego club? Like, where can they learn and participate in this? Or how much time would they need to commit to it? Do they go out and have to start their own? Can they just look around?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, depending on where you are in, in the country or where you are in the world, there's most likely a team nearby.
Okay, that's great.
And if there isn't, then I can tell you from experience that if you want to do it, it's an inordinate amount of work, and you may not want to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you do want to try and start up your own team, please reach out to me directly, and I can help point you to resources.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so our sponsor is Ready to Teach, and they usually work with substitute teachers and temporary teachers. So I'm trying to wonder, how does this tie into anything like a substitute or temporary teacher or teachers in general could incorporate anything of this into their program?
Well, I can tell you from my own experience, if a substitute teacher walked into the room and part of free time was to get to play with a Lego robot that actually already worked, I probably would have asked that my teacher resign and just keep this up.
Exactly. That would be amazing.
And so, they're not super cheap, but they're also not kind of break the bank expensive. And so I think, just bringing this in as like a reward.
I love that.
Could be really, really charming.
Yeah.
And you might spark something in a child.
That's what I was just thinking. I thought that's when that kid will wake up and be like, I love this, and this is something that I'm passionate about. And it would be amazing for that child. So I love that idea. That's something simple a substitute could do. That's great. Okay, I don't want to keep you any longer. Is there any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to share with us?
No, as I think, the audience will be able to tell, I'm very passionate about this program. I think it is a tremendous supplement to, a child's education. And I think in the hands of very capable educators, it does even better than I could ever do. Like I've watched tremendously strong educators use this program to help children of all types, get a taste for STEM, develop a passion for elements of STEM that are not just prototypical. I now have colleagues who are, probably 15 to 20 years younger than me, who've been through this program, and now they're project and product managers. It was the first where they learned to code. They're not software developers for a living. They're not doing that, but they love tech. And First Lego League was like the first thing that showed them that like there's a whole world in tech. And as I think most people know, it pays well. It's a pretty solid, place to earn a living. And so I can't recommend that more highly.
I love that. I think that's great just to open our eyes to other options, because I think it's the traditional way, which we're all used to. Nothing wrong with that, but the kids are not traditional kids. And sometimes they need something different and out of the box. And so I love things like this that teaches us something different. And it'd be a great opportunity for other kids. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this. This is great. I love your passion about it. So this has been really great. If there's any other questions, I'll check really quick. Anybody had any other questions for Gonzo before we go? But thank you. I appreciate your time, and we will put some contact information on the webinar so that people could get a hold of you if they're interested in any more information about the First Lego League, like you said.
Absolutely.
So they can
my
reach out
pleasure
to
to spend some time with you today, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to leave with a little video here that I wanted to share, but people are welcome to log off as they need to. But I'm just going to share this video really quick as we say goodbye. So let me get this started. Okay. Thanks, Gonzo.
We know that running a school is one of the most difficult jobs on the planet. Whether it's onboarding a sub, gathering paperwork from a new one, conducting background checks, training, and so much more. The checklists are endless, and keeping tabs on everything can be absolutely exhausting. That's why we created Ready to Teach, so schools and teachers alike could have a simple software solution to guide them through the platform and paperwork they need with the click of a button. Our sleek and easy to navigate web and mobile apps give clients the ability to recruit and onboard subs while also allowing teachers to enter vacation and request time off, no matter where they are in the world. With our job management platform, educators can request subs, manage pay rates, lesson plans, and more. It's clear that our service gives professionals the ability to focus on what really matters, the kids. So visit our website to learn more and schedule a demo today. Let us help prepare you for tomorrow. Ready to teach. Absence management from start to finish has now been simplified.
Awesome. So thanks, Ready to Teach, for sponsoring this webinar. And thanks again, Gonzo, for being here today. Just really appreciate your time and all the information you shared with us. So thank you.
Have a great day.
Okay, everybody have a great day. Take care.